Coito Show. It's Wednesday. It's the middle of the week. But we got some sports going on right now, and my man Paul Honda is joining us, and he's keeping his eye on that event. That's a UFC event. So, Paul, what? Talk about the big match tonight that you're covering.
It's my first UFC fight, man. I have no idea what I'm doing. I love it, though. I mean, we've been watching a lot of video. I watched the prelims, and it's awesome, man. There's a lot more boxing than I ever expected. But, you know, I cover high school sports, and normally there's a lot of high school sports every night of the week. So, and we have Billy Hall, who normally covers UFC. A lot of video. I never needed to I was never interested. I just seen some highlights, and I thought, man, they just get each other on the ground and just blast each other. And that's kind of. But then when I really have to watch it now. It's like, man, the skill level is off the charts.
Yes.
Because you have to protect, and then you have to attack, and there's no stalling. You know, if you want to stall, you can be eaten alive. So, there was a guy earlier, Chazmat. I don't even want to say his last name. Young guy from Czechia. Fights out of Sweden. He's about 6'2", and he moved up, so they had him at 185. But I think they said he's normally 160, 165. But man, that guy is so skilled. Wow. He kept boxing. When he took him down, he just ate this guy up. This guy Phillips. He's a brawler and real strong. But the fighter I'm supposed to write about is, of course, Dan Ige. And I've seen his stuff now on video. He's 5'7". To me, he's a Hawaii version of Rocky Balboa. He's got so much guts. He's got hand speed. I haven't seen him do a lot of kicking. And he started out as a wrestler at Kahuku. And Reggie Torres told me, well, he came out late. He came out his junior year.
Wow.
And his senior year, he started to get real serious, and he made it to the state semis, lost close in overtime. And that was, I think, 10 years ago. So
yeah, I say he's 28. He's only a year younger than Max then, right? And they're in the same division, too.
And he's 14-2, and now he's going up against guys 6'2", and throws bombs. Mostly from what I see, street stuff. Nothing real fancy, but this is two opposites almost going at each other, except both of them, Qatar, he's from Boston, a lot of pride. So it's very similar in that sense, but when you look at the two of them, you're like, they have to be in different divisions. But they're both weights, or I should say featherweights.
Yeah.
Interesting. Hope we keep it close.
Yeah.
Close.
Well, we talked about the Holloway fight this past week on my show on Sunday, and I mean, did you get a chance to watch that? And what were your impression after that match as well?
I didn't get to see it. But from what everybody said on social right away, I mean, within seconds, #robbed. And the next day, I guess Rob DeMello, he retweeted what FanDuel or one of those gambling sites.
Yeah, they refunded, right?
They said if you put money on Max Holloway, don't worry about it. And I'm like, is this for real?
I was saying the same thing.
Wow.
I've never heard a gambling site ever. You never heard gambling house just like giving money back. Like, nah, that was bad. Like, here's our cut back to you. Like, I've never heard that before, but I mean,
did people complain, or did they just feel like it was so badly called that we have to do this?
Maybe that's what it was. But I mean, to me, like, it was controversial. I thought the Max won. Of course, if you take out the local bias, of course, I still think Max won objectively. I mean, it's probably closer than egregious, but I thought that it was a good fight, 5 rounds, and that was a lot. But that's all our UFC talk. We'll go to another place instead. But Paul Honda, and currently writing. You're still at the Hawaii Prep World, and just talk about what you do there.
Well, we've had all kind of ups and downs as a newspaper, as a company. A lot of people, not just in our business, but in every line of work in this state. A bunch of us were furloughed, and then recently the union and the company settled things, so we're back. We lost 12 co-workers. We took voluntary layoffs. I mean, I have to bring this up because
yes, for sure.
We lose not only lose good people, but also it causes a shuffle, and it's a little bit disconcerting, and heartbreaking for a lot heartbreaking. But as far as the high school stuff, it's really simple. Stuff is going on every day, even though there's no games. So
yeah.
I'm back to like writing about kids getting offers. There's a dead period right now. But,
of course.
They're with the kids.
Yeah.
And then, of course, with the coronavirus, that situation is still unpredictable. So, there are meetings every week with the ILAs, Hawaii, and the High School Association. The latest is that August 17 would have been the first day where high school teams could practice football. And they would bring back the rest of the fall sports 6 weeks later on the 31st. But there's a lot of talk now that within the DOE side, completely separate from the HSA, that they'll probably bump it back 2 weeks. And that's kind of what the HSA is expecting. So if you bump it back 2 weeks, it doesn't sound like a lot, but then there's all these windows that athletic directors and all the staffs rely on, where the seasons end up overlapping between fall, winter, and spring, but they don't want too much because there's only so much space and time you have in your facilities. And then on top of that, the trainers have to know everything about treating COVID. If you're in phase 1, like with our kids, our basketball kids, we work out, but we don't play basketball really. I mean, you got to be socially distanced, wiping the balls down, sanitize, masks on. You can't share the ball if you're in phase 1. It's basically just it's almost unplayable. Phase 2, there's a lot more allowance, right? It's kind of resembling. It's the same for all the fall sports. So I don't know what they're going to do with football. Ron Lee has said since like March or February. Yeah, he said for months that you might as well just go to spring. Yeah, just go get back.
So yeah, we talked about that and then a while ago. Do you think that it's feasible for we'll get into college, which I think is another one that we're talking about possibly moving. But in high school, do you think it's feasible right off the bat to just shift the calendar? Do you think it's possible?
On paper, if you're not an administrator, it sounds easy. They have to deal with Title IX. If anyone at the Civil Rights Office decides this is an unequal treatment of girls' sports, why is football getting all the privilege, all the consideration? That could be a problem. And they've been worried about Title IX and stuff in the past before. That's why girls' basketball 12, 13 years ago actually was in the spring and ended up moving into the fall with the boys. And so that's they want to keep it traditional as long as they can. But one thing Coach Ronley said was, if we end up bumping stuff back into September, into October, and we could have played so-called moderate risk sports like tennis, golf, even baseball and softball, baseball. We could have played those sports in that period, and used up that time wisely, be efficient. If we don't do that, then we lose it. And when it all bumps together, and then boom, we're going to end up eliminating sports or cutting it down to like something ridiculous. 4 weeks. So I think the number one thing for the athletic directors, they've all said, like, they haven't said we don't care if the season's short. They don't say that. But they do say, look, we just want to make sure we get through everything safe. Nobody gets sick and nobody dies. They don't use the word die, but I'll use it.
Of course.
So, and not even like the athletes. If they just bring it home and grandma who lived with them gets sick, they don't want anything like that. So they all would rather just bump it back and play it safe and not even bring tennis or whatever. Even like the spring sports that got canceled, those guys are ready to play right now. Keenan Sue from Funnel, he said, if we play in the fall, that'd be great. We'll do it. Because he said if we don't do it and we get to the spring and we cancel season again, that's just going to kill us. That's 2 seasons in a row we lost. So everybody's got, I wouldn't say an agenda, but they've got their perspective on it. It's heartfelt because you can't get it back. Once the time is gone, you can't get it back.
Of course. And that's the biggest issue that we're dealing with, right? I mean, it's like the seasons can only happen kids are only their age when they are, and things move on pros. We might have more flexibility. Guys opting out of seasons. Kids can't do that. They want to play. This is the only chance they have.
The other thing that's a little bit interesting too is like there are people in Indiana, Wisconsin, whatnot, as one state declares, well, we're gonna change our fall schedule. There are some kids who are thinking about, or already have, like said, I'm going to live with my uncle and my auntie in this other state so I can play my sport in that season. And it's over, I'll come back to my home state. It's not prevailing now, but coaches have talked about, how bad it's going to be. It's already starting just a little bit, but it's not bad yet. Like one kid from the Midwest, he decided to go to IMG, right, big time. But he might have gone anyway, right? Yeah. He was a pretty highly recruited wide receiver, and he decided, I'm going to jump this and just not even worry about it. Just go there because they're allowing it in Florida, right? Or wherever the state is.
Yeah, IMG, yeah.
So, but if this thing continues to spike on the mainland, we get more spikes here, then it doesn't matter what we're talking about.
Yeah, of course. Well, now we're getting into a kind of a critical moment, mid-July, and at this point we're typically already smelling hot dogs, and I know you're already smelling all the local foods you're about to sample at all the different high school football stadiums. But I know a favorite time of the year for you. But as we get closer, when do you think harder decisions will start to be made?
I don't think they know. I don't think they know. They're handcuffed. Everything is tied into what the DOE decides to do in classrooms. Nobody's in class. There's no sports. Same thing with college, right? Yeah, they can't justify it, even though in college it's a business, but they just don't call it that.
Yeah, of course.
They don't know what to expect. DOE is tied into the state. Governor Ige just said, "Well, we're going to push everything back to September 1st now. We're going to push back one more month. No tourists flying." And it's like everything is it's a domino effect. Everything's tied together. So they don't want to say anything like, "Oh, you know what? We'll just cancel fall." They don't want to say that.
No.
But they do have concerns. When I wrote about some things like this about 2 months ago, Hilo was the state rep in Chris Todd, and he was the offensive coordinator with the Hilo High School football team. And he just stepped down. He has a young family and everything. But he said that, and I wrote about it, he said they're expecting at least 50 new cases a day and upwards. And I said, like, upwards of what, like 100? He said, could be. But don't say 100, but we're expecting at least 50 every day.
Wow.
And that's with tourism at a 30% capacity. So if it's just 30% of what it was in January, which was January, February, where I lived, like, just all the tour buses go by here to eat. It was nonstop. I knew it was some kind of record because it's like day and night. There was just traffic. So if it's only 30% of that, and they're going to have at least 50 to 100 cases, then all affects the schools. There's ways to do it. If they do the pre-flight testing, I think, right, that should make sense, right?
It might help. I think, like you said, we don't know a lot, and I'm going to shift the conversation even higher to the next level, to the college level. We'll start there, and with Hawaii football in general, more specifically, I mean. Just the challenges of this era being able to host college football. What is your opinion there as well?
They already lost their preseason games, right? They're non-conference games, so part of me feels the same way about just, and Coach Ron said that too, they should move everything to the spring. It's not just because of convenience, and coaches like Ron, they want their, like Ron's used to having a spring and a fall, a spring, summer, and fall, getting guys ready. So yeah, he's a little bit greedy when he's asking for that, but also the safety thing. But also, he said, football, let's admit it pays for everything.
Yeah, of course.
Football, UH football, women's volleyball, they cover the bills for a lot of other sports. So I was kind of hoping that the NCAA would do something groundbreaking and allow that to happen. Right now, it doesn't look like the Big Five schools going to do that.
Yeah.
And the NCAA is like, no, we're going to keep doing this. So they're in the worst part of the country.
I know. And that's the
So
saddest part. Yeah.
That's what I wish.
Mm-hmm. But, it's hard, like you said. You mentioned the Big Five. The NCAA can't really do much anyway. They're handcuffed as well by their fractured relationship with the Big Five schools. And then you have our tier at UH in the mid-majors. And you're right, we really can't play anything if we don't play football. That's the thing, too. It's hard to imagine just playing another season. But a lot of athletic directors are pushing back against the spring. So we'll see there. We've been saying that for a long time. Let's just move it to the spring so we can have all our games, go to Oregon, do all the games we want to do. But we'll look at the pros now, and the NFLs already have some issues. I just watched a cool talk story with like Victor Cruz and Cam and OBJ, and they talked to a lot of them are really worried about coming back and the safety issues there, and just talk about being on the field. Not even people in the stands or people walking around, but just the dangers of that they're talking about with the players being face to face so much.
Yeah, there were kids from here. That Team Rage were a team from mostly North Shore kids. Mm-hmm. They went and played in the 7-on-7 in Utah and then in Mesquite, Nevada, right?
Oh, okay.
And nobody's wearing masks. When you watch the highlights, the kids are just out there like kids here are training outside of school. Some in small groups, some in larger groups, just running sand, running hills. Mm-hmm. And so far, so good. No apparent outbreaks.
Yeah.
And some people say, well, it's the sun. Sun kills the virus. I don't think so.
Yeah.
Is it the wind? They're constantly moving. Yeah, that's part of it too. But when it gets down to football practice, you're touching the same ball. Mm-hmm. You're lining up against a guy, inches away from you, standing next to guys, on the line, inches from you, sweating, rep for an hour and a half, breathing basically the same air in a small area. Who wants to test that?
Yeah.
Football kids don't care.
Yeah, of course.
They want a chance. They think, right? If you look at the data.
Well, maybe the kids, the NFL players, they got their money already. They're like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah,
I mean, they're good.
But young guys don't get sick, or if they do, they bounce back from it. That's the mentality. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, man. If that was my kid, I probably would be like, you sure you want to do this? I'd be worried.
Well, would you be worried about sending your kid to school right now?
Yeah, definitely. There's no way they can keep the kid. I mean, they've shown diagrams. I've seen pictures of classes on the mainland where they have, they're split up 6 feet and everything. I heard, one of the private schools is planning on having, little billion tents outside. So the teacher can have space, and kids can get instruction, but they're separate, and they're making use of more space outside. That way they're not cramped together in class. But it's all experimental. Mm-hmm. It's all a guinea pig situation.
Yeah.
And a lot of it comes down to money, right? If the state can't afford to give every single, let's say every public school needs these pavilion tents outside, extra sanitizer, extra everything, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, where's that money coming from?
Yeah.
And I still go back to the federal government. If they're going to instruct, well, you got to do this or you don't get funding. But you're not giving any anyway for the extra stuff. Mm-hmm. But you're going to take away the basic funding for programs. That's it's a lot of BS.
Yeah.
If you're going to force people to go back to school, provide. Don't just talk about it. Provide. Every single state, every town, every city. And even then, it's not safe, right? It's not, we can reduce the risk, but I think a lot of people, they're debating right now, we're going to have maybe 30-40% will keep the kids at home. Mm-hmm. At least, unless they can prove that it's functional. So there's stuff about, they'll come to class twice a week and then learn online the other days. But who's going to stay home to watch the kid? Yeah. If the kid is in middle school, maybe go to work, not worry. But if you're already working from home, not bad.
Yeah.
But if they say, no, you got to be in class like Betsy Davis,
yeah,
Davis, or whatever it is, she
yeah.
said, no, we want the kids there full time.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? How are you going to do that? Oh, we just want the kids. What's your plan? We just want the kids in school. She doesn't have a plan.
No.
There's no plan. it's raw, right? My friend used to call it just
Yeah.
voila out. Just no plan. So that's why everybody in Hawaii is kind of like waiting for something. They're gonna have to figure it out in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Or they have to bump everything back.
Wow, 3 weeks. I mean, when you put it like that, it's crazy. It's insane, honestly, to think about.
There's no sports.
Yeah. So no school, no sports. That's what we know right off the bat. Kids need to be there. One sport we're looking forward to. I know they're looking forward to sporting that jersey. And I'm staying in the jersey realm as well, is because our NBA reboot is about to kick off or tip off, hopefully. But with the NBA bubble and that plan that they have in place, what are your thoughts there as well?
Part of me, right, you too. Part of me would love to be in there.
Of course.
But after about 7 or 8 days, you probably feel like I'm losing my mind. You know, I'm kind of losing my mind. And the players are going to feel like that tenfold because they have their families, they have their kids. Wasn't it Holmes from Sacramento or somewhere? He got in trouble, right, for leaving the bubble.
Yeah, I heard. Yeah, he was one of that got ratted on.
Tried to leave. What are they thinking?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to leave and come back in. Nobody's going to notice. It's like, no, they got security and cameras all over the place. So people are already bent. They're a little bit bent, thinking, I can't stay in here 48 straight hours. I'm going crazy. I'm going to go outside and smoke cigarettes.
Yeah.
No, you got to stay there. It goes against everything that we are as human beings, right?
Yeah.
So if they have a bowling alley, some guys, I don't know, the guys go fishing. What are they fishing?
There's all these little, like, you know, Orlando created lakes that they create. I mean, that whole area is so sprawling and has so much stuff. But I know that the MLS, shout out to Curtis, who's a scout for San Jose Earthquakes, our friend from Hawaii. You know, they're at the Swan and Dolphin, which I stayed at actually for an NCAA seminar back in the day. And that's a great campus, but you can walk around, I guess. But you're right. I mean, at the end of the day, these guys can't leave. And they have that snitch line, right? That's the newest thing, is like they set up the hotline to like snitch on guys that leave the bubble.
Oh,
and
that
like
thing. Yeah, Gobert said that he's not going to do it. Rudy Gobert said, you know what, that's petty, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
I think if it's something really blatant, like some guy bringing in a bunch of friends, somebody might snitch. But other than that, they're not going to.
Well, what do you think do you think this championship will come with an asterisk? Yeah, I guess I'll just stay there. I mean, what do you think that? Yeah, what would you say about this championship? Will it be tarnished?
If my Lakers win it, it's legit. If anybody else wins, you gotta highlight that thing. You gotta print it in red with 5 asterisks. Right now, LeBron looks fresh and AD looks fresh. You see the highlights. Who knows, right? Maybe they were lazy during this whole pandemic and their legs aren't there, and when they start playing, they look their age, right? 80's young.
Yeah.
But my guess is that they're in the best shape of their lives right now.
Of course.
This break was great for LeBron.
Yeah.
And they know how to win. They know how to win. Losing Rondo hurts. I think Avery Bradley's off the roster. Little things like that add up. But in a contained environment like that, and you got veterans who are not playing around, any kind of distractions, and they're going to keep the whole team in line, they have a huge advantage in that situation, I think. And plus, LeBron knows he's not going to play forever, so.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
He's got a solid. So LeBron just turned 36 or turns 36 in December. And you know, now that he kind of has assembled a squad, because you know, like you said, AD is young. You know, how many years do you think he has left? How many years would you say LeBron has left after this year?
He invests. How much does he spend every year on his body? Like $2.5 million.
Oh yes.
Like
yeah.
So he probably can play well past 40. It's like Dr. J, right? When he retired, I remember he averaged like 20.6 points, something like that, right? And I'm a kid looking at these little scholastic books that come into our school, and it was in the 70s. I'm looking at his numbers like, why did he retire?
Yeah.
Still averaging 20. And for Dr. J, it was not about scoring. It was about, do I still have a lot of explosion? Do I still have a lot of gas?
Yeah.
Can my knees take any more of this?
Of course.
So if LeBron wants to milk it, he probably play till he's 50. But if he wants to play championship level, my guess is 44.
Yeah.
Until he's 44.
Okay, I agree. I'm totally there with you. I mean, I think him,
With his sons.
Brady.
With his son.
Yeah. Which one?
With his son.
Oh, with his son.
That's part of it. Yeah.
I think he
love to stick around for his son.
Absolutely. And the
Bronny
Bronny train is alive and well at ESPN. I mean, that's the most famous middle schooler ever to be featured, probably, and now in high school. But when we talk about the championship and who can hoist the crown, I know that the NBA was toying with the idea of seeding 1 through 16, which I actually would have liked that better, because we all know the West is just slightly more loaded. But if you were to narrow it down to a handful of teams that could potentially win this championship, who would you narrow it down to?
Well, Lakers, Clippers.
Yeah.
I'm not going to rule out the Celtics.
Yeah, same.
Rockets just lost Westbrook, so I don't even know how much he's going to miss. He's going to miss maybe a week, 2 more weeks. But they're not built for playoff basketball. They haven't been some of the time. So the fourth team, I'm just going to say, but I love watching them, is the Mavs.
Oh, okay, yes. I love watching them, too. They're a really fun team to watch, yes.
Luka and LeBron, man, they carry the fantasy team, man. I love watching these guys.
Yeah, I love Luka. He's one of my favorite players ever to watch.
The Sixers, supposedly, they're going to move Ben Simmons to power forward. Let the other guy, I forget his name.
Yeah,
point guard,
handle the ball.
I'm sure Ben will go back and run it for like 15, 20 minutes a game. That'll save his legs a little.
Yeah.
But that's a matchup problem for a power forward, right? Trying to run around with Ben, so they might sneak in. I don't know.
Well, when we talk about also just the fact that things could happen within the bubble, potentially, or even just any seasons going ahead. So not just the NBA, but say we have to stop playing for a moment. Do you think that affects you? I mean, if we have to keep starting and stopping, because you brought that up with football earlier. Like, we just don't know, because we could get to a point where we're just like starting and then taking it week to week. But do you have a feeling that could happen, or do you think it's all or nothing for what you've been covering, the leagues you've been covering so far?
What league is that?
So just any, because when I was thinking about you talked about in the beginning of our show, we talked about high school, and there are probably a couple weeks. They're supposed to be in class in 3 weeks, so we don't even. That's another element there. And then we are still worried. You said August 17th was the date for football, but we're still waiting there. So, do you think that we'll just keep pushing, or do you think it's all or on-off thing for football or for sports in general at the high school level?
Well, with high school football here, I know the athletic directors and coaches, they're concerned about getting enough prep time. And to them, prep time isn't like other sports where we had a lot of off-season, we got 2 weeks of preseason, now we start scrimmaging. Football guys, they want a month, 2 months to get physically acclimated. We didn't have spring ball. We haven't lifted weights all summer as a team. So it's complicated in the sense that they're going to probably want to push for a later start. The first game was supposed to be a month after August 17th, in theory. They bumped things back. The coaches might be happy. They don't want to lose games, but they might be happier with that. But we know, right? There's going to be stoppages.
Yeah, of course.
Somebody's going to come in from somewhere, mainland, Asia, wherever. They're going to be the spreader. Hotel shuts down because 15 people there got 15 hotel workers got sick, and 2 of them have children that play sports. And now this locker room has like 7 kids tested positive.
Yeah.
There's going to be fits and stuff, right? Just boom, stop, continue again, stop, continue again. So how much can we take that? Very little.
Yeah.
We don't want that, but that's going to be out of our hands.
Yeah.
So that's the new reality.
Yeah. That's the reality that we're in.
Is my fight starting yet? Can you see ESPN?
I can check it for you right now. It looks like not yet. It looks like they're on the pre-fight for the Elliott and Benoit fight. So you still got several fights, at least a whole fight to go.
I have no idea who these guys are.
Yeah, I mean they're both Americans, so that's a good thing. When you talk about Paul Honda, Pupule Paul, we need to find out where you got that from too. It's a good sounding name too, but Pupule is an interesting way to be described.
Probably not the best name to have if you're on social media. People are like, "What is that, purple?" I didn't care because at the time I was like, "What is Twitter? Is it like MySpace? I don't know." I'm an old guy, so but I should have thought that too. But my mom used to call me Pupule. My brother, who's 4 or 5 years younger, 4.5 years younger, he was the smart one, mellow. I was a little bit crazy, so she would call me Pupule, and she never said the word "you're crazy." She said "you're Pupule."
I like it.
I kind of thought, you know what? That's at least nobody else has that probably on socials. That was years ago, and now I regret it a little bit. But
I like it. I think you got to just keep running with it. It's great. But talk about that. Talk about your upbringing as well, and where you grew up, where you went to school.
Upbringing, pretty boring. Pretty boring, man. But I tell you what, my mom she's from the old school. She had us later in life. She's a single mom, deaf lady, always telling us stories about, coming over from Maui, living at the deaf and blind school. It's territorial school back then, right? Real strict dorm mothers, always screaming at them and everything. She was kind of like that with us too. But only when we got out of line. The rest of the time, she was a loving mom. But she did allow me to go to the park every day. As long as I wasn't being too stubborn and whatnot, did my chores. So she would let us go to the park. My brother had to stay home a lot because she was a lot younger than me. So going to the park, all the way park every day, especially in the summer, right? Whether we had summer fun or not, end up playing until the lights went out and sun went down, playing baseball, playing tackle football, playing basketball. It doesn't happen anymore, but back then, that was normal.
Yeah.
And you get a bleeding nose, you suck it up, you play. Somebody hit you in the head with the bat by accident, come back the next day. You learn basically the golden rules, right? It's like you respect each other. If you guys scrap, you scrap. And then after that, you actually respect each other more. You call each other, "Hey, you bring the ball, I got my bat, you got gloves." You organize stuff like that.
Of course.
You play with kids that live in the fancy condo, play with the guys who live down the road and we're all on food stamps. You kind of all come down to the park and play just because you want to play. And you learn to work together. And if somebody gets out of line, they're probably going to get a crap. That's how it is in a way. If you ta-dan, then they get it. If you don't get it, then you leave. Just go stay home, do something. That's why I think a lot of people in this world, they grew up like that. And they understand a level of fairness that other people who are privileged or grew up with sheltered lives, they don't get that.
Yeah.
They don't get that, and it shows. And then people who get it, they teach it to their children. Nobody's perfect, but at least you have a sense of, I give you space. You want to be a fool, you can be a fool.
Yeah.
Want to be cool, then we'll be fine. We just keep playing all summer and have fun.
Well,
that was my life. That was my life until I got a paper route and started working all the time. But it was a good life. I don't regret it.
So playing sports and then having a paper route, are those the two motivating factors behind you writing and becoming a sports writer, or where was it that drew you to that?
I think at that time it was around the late 70s. I was in 8th grade, and Star Bulletin had a whole bunch of good writers. Jimmy Stewart, Bill Kwan, Paul Carvalho. They were just on and on and on and on. But to us guys who read the sports section, it was just normal. We took it for granted, probably. You read it every day after you finish your paper out. So you get an idea of how to put a sentence together. I don't know if that made me, if that triggered me into becoming a sports writer, but I love sports. So that was definitely the best exposure. There are kids now, they play football or basketball, but they don't even follow the sports.
Yeah.
They're playing Fortnite, they're playing Call of Duty, whatever. They're having fun, but they don't go to the park. They just kind of socialize with their friends by forming a team and going out there and killing people on in a virtual game, which is fun. Yeah. But they're not learning. I don't know. I was lucky in that sense, and for however long I get to keep this job, that's that's going to be a blessing. But other than that, I have no real professional skills.
Well, no, I mean, we enjoy you've managed to, in your career, I think, in your writing, convey that sense of what you're talking about, growing up in Hawaii, and that localness, and that feel that of an era when all of Hawaii was together, and there was wrestling at the whatever, and all that era that people talk about, and so many writers. And why do you think obviously the internet and so much has changed, and we've evolved to a certain place, but the role of the newspaper, how has that evolved, and where do you see it going from here as well?
I think the first sign was when the advertiser, the rival paper, they were the morning paper. I delivered the Star Bullets in the afternoons, and gradually people were more interested in the morning paper because it was more current, right? And then CNN came along, and if you want to know something that's going on in the world, just go to Channel 14 and find out. You don't have to wait till the 6 o'clock news on Channel 9. Back then, Joe Moore was a sportscaster, and he was inventive. That guy was like so funny. He was like,
really?
They'll come back from a commercial, and he's like sleeping on his desk and all kind of. He was completely hilarious. Now he's he's Joe Moore.
Of course. Yeah.
Back then, I mean, there was a lot of leeway, but they were still very professional. There's enough competition with 3 stations, right? So, but the way it's going now, I mean, it's not a shock. There's so many newspapers across the world are shutting down. What it does, besides the fact that we need to get more on the internet with video and podcasts and do what you're doing, this is perfect, right? But besides all that, it's like we need to be able to be efficient with smaller numbers. I mean, we lost, I said earlier, we lost 12 people. We're not going to ever replace Cindy Lewis or Brian McInnes, Nick Abramo. We don't replace them. You can't replace 30 years of experience, 27 years of experience, 15 years of covering UH basketball. We just don't.
Yeah.
Me covering youth, I'm doing my best.
Yeah.
But I'm not Billy Hall. Billy Hall's been covering this thing since he was born. I'm a high school writer, but now they got me covering UFC. I'm enjoying it. I'll do my best, but it's the reality, and the more we do non-traditional, the better. But again, we're dependent on advertising. A lot of businesses are, and it's all here. Of course, it's all tied into tourism. Money comes in that way, and it spreads. So, in the meantime, I think most of us are just happy to have jobs. If we have jobs, and if we can just continue to do it day by day, story by story, that's enough. I don't know a single person in Highline business is greedy. I haven't seen any of that for years. How come they promised us this? They didn't know. Everybody's just grateful to have a job. Yeah. Doing something they like with people they really love. And then if it doesn't work out, there's other lines of work, like we're done. But the reality is just gut-wrenching sometimes. So people, younger people, some parents have asked me before in the last, since I started in 1990, and they said, my daughter was a good writer. My son, he likes sports, likes to write about sports. And more so in the last 20 years, 50 years, I said, don't do it. Don't do it, because you can make a lot more money doing something else. Be an electrician, mechanic, go to college, whatever it is. Have backup plan, have 2 career plans, and don't expect the newspapers to be around as they are. If you do, be multimedia. Be somebody who like you, able to do 2, 3, 4 things, and that will help. But the future, I can't predict. Right? Nobody knows. Hopefully, we're still around in 10 years.
Yeah. No, I mean, and I think, like you said, well, first you said enjoying what you do, which is what any sports professional does. It's for the enjoyment, and we're told that. I mean, as an artist too, as an actor, we're always told like you can make money for the experience, or for anything non-monetary that people can get away with. But the reality is we do need money to run sports. We need money to run the world, and we need money to keep things going. But as we come into the future, and the world starts to evolve, and we're seeing so many global movements. Not only the pandemic, obviously Black Lives Matter. Where do you see the state of athletics going? And I'm talking from the professional down to the high school level from here on out.
If this pandemic, like Dr. Fauci or other experts say, it's gonna linger for 2 years, 3 years, who knows, right?
Mm-hmm.
The way it affects pro sports is going to be direct, right? Fans either show up or don't show up, and they're dependent on TV. Mm-hmm. They can kind of get by. Salaries won't be the same. Mm-hmm. Nobody feels sorry for the athletes who lose money, and now they're only making $12 million a year instead of 30. Right? Mm-hmm. But for colleges, it's earth shaking, man. It's like the San Andreas fault for every single school. So I'm worried about colleges even. I mean, Sanford Club men's volleyball. I mean, there's no way to imagine that would ever happen under any circumstance.
Yes.
I mean, they fill it up for volleyball. A lot of these programs, they're putting all the sport into football because football makes the most money, but then they have to cut something that's dominant program. It's unfathomable. So I think that's going to continue. It's unless someone who's a lot smarter than me figures out a way to keep everything lean and efficient, cut schedules down to just no out-of-league games. But for Hawaii, the travel aspect, the cost, that gets really tricky. Attendance football is already going down. They have the pay-per-view, but how does it work out? I have no idea. I don't talk to Steve Tsai or Fred Lewis when they cover UH for us. They probably would give you more insight about the possibilities, right? But, air travel from here to the mainland, that's always a major factor. How are they gonna mitigate around that? Just make it work.
Yeah.
I mean, not just for the other sports, the so-called minor sports, but for football alone. So beyond this year, and when there's stoppages and this and that, it's we took all of this for granted. All of us cheered for UH since we were diapers. We just took this off.
Yes, absolutely.
Solution, I have no solution, but I have hope that the smarter people than me will figure it out. And mid-majors, I mean, somebody on Facebook joked with me like, "Oh yeah, I miss the days when Lamar and Texas A&I were coming here for football in the 70s.
Yeah.
Like, I was so young, I had no concept of like comps. That was like, I think Texas A&I, they were a national champion in A&I. And then every time there's like big trouble with money, well, some people here, right? This UH shit, consider dropping down to Division 2. It's like, I don't think that's going to work.
No.
You can understand why. It's cost factors.
Yeah.
I don't know if people want to turn out for Division 2 football. So it's like Rome, right? It's like any great democracy. They say, when you're in the last stages, it goes out with a whimper, basically. I don't think that our democracy is ending, but it kind of feels like it in a way where, like, what pro athletes ever make that kind of money again with the way things are going on? There's not even going to be enough games.
Yeah.
So things got to get toned down and moderated and more reasonable, maybe. I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, I'm thinking that we're gonna need at least a year, or at least till next year, to kind of, till next year to even get to a place where we can get people safe. I mean, I think the vaccine is going to be required on the field, but I think looking at just the state of sports and the going to sports, since that's something I talk a lot about in Hawaii Sports Fans, because it's all about that experience of being in the stadium. And I know you love being in high school stadiums and stadiums across the country, but having that experience in a stadium is something that's so important, has become a part of the getting people out, regardless of the game, regardless of the score. People are going to get there. So when we talk about UH, for instance, you mentioned like losing the attendance. A lot of people say get more local kids out, and you're there at the beach, you're there at Farrington, you're there talking to a lot of these local kids. Is UH ever, for some of them, I know you're talking to kids who are like 4 or 5 star sometimes athletes, but is UH on their radar, and how does it usually work with what is the culture like around high school and local high school athletes?
They have a new coach. I think Rollo, you look at the win-loss record for Coach Rolovich, it wasn't excessively great, but he had a certain momentum going. He had culture. He had long-time people on the staff who fairly young in age, but then they played here, they coached here. People know Stutzman and guys like that. Now they're all gone. So I think Jacob Yoro is a huge factor for UH. Every time I'll give a call to some of these young players getting offers from UH or getting interest. Coach Yoro is in the mix. And it used to be where during the June Jones days, they would wait. They would wait because they wanted to see what will open on the mainland, bringing guys with size and speed, right? And over the years, more and more coaches realized, including Coach Jones, that you got to make a step and offer before senior year.
Yeah.
Now it's like a given. But back then, they would wait until the season started, take a look. Okay, we like this kid. And then maybe the exceptions would get something right after junior year. Now guys are getting offered junior year, getting offered right after sophomore year. So Stevie Akana from the Emil, right in the Minnesota. You got offered before So, but you look when they see guys on the campus, they see this kid is tall, long, he's explosive, he's going to love. So they're willing to offer them. So with UH, they're willing to step up. They made a lot of offers locally to legit prospects. But will kids stay? That's always the biggest question. For me and you, I don't know. For me, I would just stay.
Yeah.
I know I want to live my life in Hawaii. Why confuse it by getting texts from 15, 20? You get 20 offers, that's great. Yeah. But that's 20 phone calls you get almost every day. 20 texts. And that's just, trying to finish your homework, get some practice, study hall and all that. It's a little bit distracting. The kids like it to a point, but if you know you want to see in Hawaii and take Hawaii to the next level, then you might as well do it. But the kids don't want to go for more. I don't blame them.
Yeah.
You want to play in the Rose Bowl, you want to play for a national championship. 2 of those to Alabama, right? That's. Were we surprised that they won a national? No.
Yeah.
He was that good. Sophomore year, he had 33 touchdown passes and only 3 hits. Yeah. And he was in command of it. So that was not a shock. If he got to UH, that would have been a shock. That would have been nice. But he's just so good.
Yeah.
But if he got to UH, that would have been a mistake.
Yeah. Well, how do you think UH has a chance? I mean, just in the current situation, if they, what would it require to UH to start getting some of the top 10 guys again, or more of those guys?
Man, the reality is competing against young guys, right, with their facilities, with the hype. When guys get an offer from USC, even UCLA, it's a little bit of a change in the tone in their voice, right? I got offered last week by so-and-so. They call them a week later. Oh, what about this offer? Oh, yeah, it's different. It's different, right?
Yeah.
And I think when you get older, you realize, USC, it's a big deal, big tradition. We're in LA, but now that I'm older, I don't want to live in LA. I love Hawaii. So if I was to do it all over again, maybe I would have just gone to the beach. It's a mentality, it's a life experience thing, and sometimes you just gotta go. So what does UH have to do? They just gotta keep doing what they're doing. Just recruit hard, sell the culture, be authentic with the kids. Don't butter them up. Just be honest with them, but then let them know that you guys have fun while you're there too. It's not all just work and grind and sweat. It's also good times. And show it to those guys, because the guys coming here from the mainland, like I think women's basketball just got a 6-4 transfer from the GC.
That's right. Yeah, I saw that.
Directly from France.
Yeah, from France. Yeah.
That's how you build the program too, right? These guys, they could stay on the mainland, go to any other school. I mean, they come to Hawaii because they want a special experience. This girl's coming from France to the U.S. and then leaving the continent to come here. If the local guys in the top, maybe not in the top 3 or 4, but in the top 15, top 20, if they see that excitement from people coming here and they go, you know, I ran into some of these guys, they're pretty cool. Mm-hmm. We could build something special. That's the mentality it takes, because right now it's so easy to be, you know what, the coaches at this school got a lot of juice. You know? This coach over here coached the NFL. I want to go there. You know, June Jones had that, right? He had that aura. Mm-hmm. You know, he didn't have to push a lot of buttons. You know, people sent him VHS. People don't know what VHS tapes are. There's these thick cassette tapes that in the 90s people would send to June Jones on Mondays after they had a great game on the previous Saturday. He always said, that's my best recruiting tool, is playing on ESPN. Mm-hmm. And then boom, I should come to the office, I've got a stack of videos, and I can pop in there and take a look.
Wow.
That kind of thing can be built. Coach Graham, Coach Yoro, all the guys they got now, they can be built. But they cannot stop. Mm-hmm. They cannot take 3 days off. They've got to consistently do what they're doing. Be in touch with the kids. You know, don't let anything change. And if they get offered by Notre Dame or whatnot, they just decide, you know what, I can't turn it down, it's fine. But it can't be because, you know, we assumed anything. They got to sell it. They got to be confident. And the scheduling too, right? The schedule has to be, I mean, when June was still coaching, they had, and this year they had three Pac-12 teams on the schedule. They were doing all the right things.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, it does. It makes a lot of sense, and I think you gave it. You broke it down well. It starts with working every day and building that relationship, and you know, I hope you got some. I would love to see some. Well, obviously during an open period or when they can be out there recruiting, just like you, making those relationships with players. I know a lot of administrators who have been successful. Some of them running for mayor, some of them running for other offices as well. Guys who got into the office and chose to make relationships a priority or into that position will do well. But we're in the second round of the almost the third round of the match before the match that Paul Hondo will be covering. So we'll let him go there. But mahalo, Paul, for joining us. And anything else you can share?
Keep going. We all need a little bit of juice. We all need that little bit of pump every day. You're grinding it out. You're keeping it positive and fun. And I appreciate that.
Mahalo. Oh, you keep it fun as well. Thanks, Paul Hondo. We'll see you next time. Okay. Aloha.